Looks like we're live.
We're live.
All right. Hello. Welcome to Agent Bounty's all new monthly series focused on everything surrounding AI. I am your host, Kathy Chambers. Hold on. I think I'm like echoing everywhere. Sorry. So today's episode is AI Fortune Tellers, where we're headed, how fast, and what comes next. Joining me for this discussion are Jack Scott and Mark Hinkle. Thank you both for being here.
Thrilled. I'm so excited. I'm excited to be here with you, Kathy, and with the Mark Hinkle. So it's gonna be good.
I should have doubled up on that espresso too. I did mine earlier.
Jax is fueling all of our energy today. So, so everybody knows this is our first one. So I'm sorry for the echoes. I have like 3 screens. I was trying to be a good host and have all the questions up. So I will get there soon. Just for the viewers, drop your questions in chat and we'll get to them when we can. If I see something that's like pertinent to the conversation, I will definitely grab it right away. If not, we will chat about it at the end. So before we dive into all the questions and the great discussion, if you guys could just give me a quick introduction and what you guys do, and I will start with Mark.
Yeah, my name is Mark Hinkle. I do a few different things. I co-founded a conference called All Things AI in Durham, North Carolina, and we had our second event back in March where I met Jax. We had about 3,000 people come to Durham, North Carolina to learn about AI. I also run a newsletter under the AIE.net, the Artificially Intelligent Enterprise, and I consult on AI strategy and upskilling for business professionals.
I love it. And
all right, Jax, you're up.
As Mark said, I just met Mark. When was that conference? March, right? Sold out, by the way. I just want to say for everybody out there, need to check it out if you're in the Durham, Raleigh area, All Things AI. You also have a meetup group, which I need to take part in. So, gosh, about me. So I've been in the cybersecurity tech space since 2008 through the military. Before it was called cyber, it was IT. Then I went into cyber, did intelligence ops, and then I got into AI a little over a year ago, I think like a lot of us. I now run my own company. It's called The Zara AI, where I help organizations understand AI, automate their overall processes within their environment. So yeah, excited for this discussion.
That's awesome. All right. So let's just go ahead and dive in. Mark, I want to start with you. Let's kind of set the stage of where we are now in this AI era. I think, and this is fair to say, you guys can agree or disagree, but I do think we are past the wow phase, right? And we're like in it now, Mark. What do you think?
Yeah. So the funny thing is that I didn't give my background, but my history, but I worked for one of the first internet service providers in the 90s called PSINet, and they were international. And I saw the .com boom, and then I worked, I had led DevRel at cloud.com, and I was early at the cloud sort of fanaticism. And, early on, I realized that AI was a bigger trend than either one of those. And what happens in the early days is we all get excited by the prospect of what it can do, the wow phase. But then when it starts to get to doing the hard work, it takes a little longer than we think. So I think that everybody is using AI today, or I say everybody, we feel like everybody is, but I don't think that's even the truth. I think a very small portion of us are using it significantly, and the rest of the world is catching up. So, I do think this is the biggest IT transformation in history, and it will have a lot of effects, but it's really early to see to judge on how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I would have to, somebody can fact check me on this in chat, but I did read an article, wasn't that long ago, that it said, Mark, that 80% of people don't use AI. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, I think we're in our bubble, right? Like if you're in AI and cyber, that's what you're talking about. But there are a lot of people who aren't. There are a lot of people outside of us. I'm going to use like my family, like they don't use it unless it's, my sister or somebody a little bit younger, like, looking up, tips or whatever on ChatGPT, but a lot of people aren't there yet. Jax, what kind of tools do you think everyday people are using versus like what you or Mark are diving into?
Well, the big one is ChatGPT. I was at my last company, I was in a hiring spurt. And one of the things I was just kind of trying to gather atmospherics with the individuals I was interviewing to understand what their knowledge base was for AI. And Mark, I would love your take on this too, because I can usually tell if how somebody uses AI based on the answer when I say, hey, can you tell me how you're applying AI in your day-to-day in cybersecurity? And if they immediately go to, well, I use ChatGPT a little bit, that tells me that they're probably just using a prompt interface, and they're probably using it to help them with cleaning up emails, maybe looking at vulnerability reports, things like that. So a really rudimentary level. And that's where I'm starting to see that most people are at. I just met with a client this morning. And first thing she said when I asked her, how are you using AI? She has a free version of ChatGPT. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. ChatGPT was the first one that really came out on the market. So it's like the Uber, in a way, it's like, oh, everybody knows that. But really where I would like to see people get is to start understanding things like Claude Code, even Claude Cowork, which is just a little bit more integrations into your space than just prompting, being able to understand that there's different types of tools and flows out there that you can utilize that are little no code or low code to be able to utilize like Zapier, make.com. But a lot of people don't know about all of these other tools. It's really overwhelming for them. And that's why I think when you talk about that 80%, I think that's why 80% of people aren't using it past I use it to draft my emails, ChatGPT style. So usually it's a hard stop when somebody tells me, oh, I use ChatGPT. If they use AI, they'll usually have a GitHub, they'll have a repo, and they'll be able to name off a few different platforms that they've utilized. And I will tell you, I interviewed probably 15 or 20 people, just to give you a data point, in about a month and a half. There was one person out of the entire interviews. He was a younger gentleman. All the rest were probably 40s plus, not using AI. One was using AI, and his response was ChatGPT, and he was like in his 30s, which is kind of, in my opinion, a little terrifying when that's a cybersecurity role, and we still don't have that use being seen in the cybersecurity space for new hires.
Yeah,
Mark,
and
do you think that? Oh,
go
okay,
ahead,
go ahead.
Kathy.
Yeah, I was going to go to you, Mark. And do you think this is an education? I know that you put out a lot of educational materials on AI. Is this an education problem more than a people not wanting to do it? Like, have they just not been exposed to it enough yet?
I think it's multiple things. So, first, I do think it's an education problem. Like there's lots of people doing AI training. I do AI training. The problem is that if you would go get your certifications and like, something like Agile, or you would get a cyber certificate, that's got a shelf life. Today, you need to continuously be learning, because what I was doing 6 months ago is not the same. So that's one challenge. Looping it back to the security side of things is there's actually a lot of problems with just using AI in a secure standpoint, because you may have your data encrypted at rest, and that's a solved problem. And we have data in flight that's encrypted and SSL. As we go, you go to your bank and you have the lock on your browser. I don't know if it shows the lock anymore, but you can look and see that you have a secure connection. But then it goes to the LLM, and what happens is that it decrypts the information, and then you've connected it to tools. You've connected it to your project management, your email, and all of that. And you can have significant data exhaust there. So I think it's a combination of a lack of understanding and training, and along with the fact that today there's a lot of an attack face that is hard to track and hard to defend.
Yeah. What do you think one of like the biggest misconceptions are about AI right now?
I think that people think it's a quick fix. So, you know, for example, just going through history, you can learn a lot. When virtualization was like VMware and you have it on your servers and you moved it to the cloud, um, you know, that was still, you know, the joke was, but it was true, is it's just other people's computers. Now, what we see is that there isn't really a um, similar situation as AI for infrastructure before. That's just, it's a whole new thing because it's, you know, it can be autonomous, it can be adaptive, it's super powerful in ways that we haven't seen before. You know, virtualization to cloud, we understood that, you know, that we were getting some scalability advantages, but this is totally different.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges, Jax, with defending AI right now? And I do want to let everybody know June 30th, we're going to do a whole episode on defending AI on the defensive side from people who are on the inside. But from your perspective, Jax, as a cyber expert, or, you know, you've been in the leadership roles, what was some of the biggest challenges that you faced there?
When you say defending, are you meaning like defending, utilizing it within a corporate space?
Great question. Probably both. So, defending it as in using it within the corporate space, or defending it from attackers who are now, you know, able to attack us faster. They have
Like
more
data
tools now.
poisoning?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
model.
probably
Okay.
if you could both would be awesome. But yeah, a corporate background, since that's where you come from, that would be awesome.
Yeah, because I think there was defending the use of it for
Mhm.
sure. Like, why do we need AI? Why do we need to pay astronomical? Like, I was told that for a Claude license at my last corporation was going to be 2,000 a person, and even though we've done massive layoffs, 2,000 a person was so much money that we kept using Copilot. So there's that defense of not only do we need the tool, and we need an investment not only in the tools but upskilling and training it. And it goes back to a lot of things that Mark said around the education piece. I was shocked at how executives are pushing for AI, but then they don't actually understand it's more than just prompting. There's integrations. I mean, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know about how powerful this tool is. Even at just attending the conference that Mark put together and just walking through things within ChatGPT, like ChatGPT alone is just a huge, powerful tool. So defending that was, it took education to be able to educate the leaders on the importance of rolling this out, upskilling it. And then to your point around defending it or protecting it is another critical aspect, because there's shadow AI in the organizations, meaning that security doesn't have a good grasp on what's getting rolled out. And they don't want to block all of the AI because you're going to impact innovation and speed. And so you want that competitive edge first to market. And I don't think a lot of organizations have figured out how to defend against data poisoning and attacks. We're seeing, and we will see very soon, and this is called my like tinfoiled hat, and it's fine. But when the Glass Wing report came out, I think it was at the first of this year, just a few months ago, around the 0-day vulnerabilities, and then Mythos that is going to be coming out very soon. I think defending AI and the security landscape, the security teams, and even the CISO role is going to drastically change, because we are currently not moving at speed right now to be able to address the vulnerabilities in our space. Just wait until there's a mass amount of vulnerabilities that are 0 days that are put out because of AI. And I'm worried for a lot of these organizations because they're still trying to figure out shadow AI and guardrails. And I think we're very far behind just defending it and protecting it. And I don't like the word defend. I would say I would change it to protect and put in guardrails for different security measures. But I think the security team as a collective is going to have to transform the way that we've done security before this time because of AI and AI vulnerabilities and the ability to roll them out and find them so much faster with adversaries.
Mark, do you think that everybody is jumping in too fast? You know, they're trying to keep up and trying to be the latest and greatest. I mean, some of the layoffs we've seen recently, just in the past 2 weeks, they said, well, we're switching everything over to AI, and we're going to lay off 8,000 to 10,000 people. Are they diving in too fast? Are they just trying to keep up? Are they not thinking about the protecting side first?
I'm looking at a couple of the announcements recently, and this is the tough thing is if you're a public company and you see how much the markets are looking for that signal, you have tremendous pressure to do that. I think the ones that will win in the uh, long run are the ones that are not just looking at how they can save productivity because or increase productivity because that's a race to the bottom. If you commoditize everything by, automating it, there's very little differentiation. I think the trick is to use AI where it's available and can help today, but really take that time to retrain and redeploy people on what the next wave looks like. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of ambiguity on like whether or not the next wave is. I honestly, I worked with um, and I was talking to the provost at NC State the other week, and I'm like, I think AI is really going to be a boon to education. And but I did say I think we'll need more professors, and I think those professors will be, the onus will be on them to be entertaining teachers that really augment AI. I think we'll yearn for real live, experiences. That's why I do live events. I think that people are, want to do live events around tech, and I think that people want to learn from other people. Udemy and Coursera recently merged, and I'm guessing that's probably because the stats around people finishing um, online training is really low. I want to say for the industry, it's like 20% of purchased AI training gets finished. So I think it's about the medium, and I think it's about the opportunity to do more. I think AI is hopefully it's an era of abundance and not scarcity. So not a few big winners, but a more democratized, time where everybody thrives with these agentic servants, robots. Insert your sci-fi meme there.
Mark, can you give me a couple of like specific examples of how AI could shape education?
I think that you can do learning that is paced to the learner. So it's adaptive learning. I think that part would be really cool. I mean, when I was in school, I was not a great student, but I was above average in some of the classes. And so, like, I had to wait for other people in my classes that did well. I think that I also, they have to teach to the mean. And I think if you're really interested, I wanted to be a geologist when I was in third grade, and I don't think, there wasn't a geology class in my whole undergraduate curriculum. So, those kinds of things where I think people can help figure out what they want to do and they can feed their passions more easily rather than being in a science class where you're going to cover space and geology and oceans and climate all in a, sixth grade, or in that time, third grade class. Yeah.
I have a question on geology really quick, Kathy. So geology, do you think the core of the earth is where the devil resides?
No, I do not. Even
I grew
though
up in Oklahoma, and that was
I,
like, they were like, if there was anybody out there in Oklahoma, they're like, that is where the devil resides. I'm like, I don't know if that's true.
I feel like he sits on my shoulder and whispers in my ear more than I would like him to.
Same, right? Oh,
Jax,
it's so cool.
I was thinking, and I don't know when it was, you post a lot about AI on your LinkedIn page. So thank you for doing that because I do go through all the free resources that you post. So thank you. One of them was kind of like a sense of urgency. Like, if you're not studying AI, you're behind. But I feel like there are a lot of headlines like that now. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you feel like you're behind? Not you personally, but do you feel like people are behind if they're not diving in right now?
Oh yeah.
Like, is there
Yeah.
still hope? Right? Because like I read these articles and it gives me a little anxiety. Like I just started
Yeah.
the cloud training and I'm like, oh my God, am I behind? Like I just started it and I feel like everybody's like leap years ahead of me. Like, what do you think about people who are just now diving in?
It's never too late. You know, those motivational speaking poster things. It's like, start now, better than late than never. But with AI, things Mark mentioned it too. Like where he was 6 months ago is in a different spot. I dove head first January of this year, like head first, fully consumed, learned all these different platforms. And I was thinking about it just the other day. Where I'm at today and where I was in January is night and day. There are tools that I don't even touch now that most rudimentary people that are getting into AI are touching because they just don't know any better. And why I'm saying that you're behind, but you can get ahead by learning slowly, is that this takes time. Even in January, I was spending, after my work hours, which I would work 10 to 12-hour days, I treated learning AI like going back for my master's, working a full-time job. And I just told somebody this yesterday that wants to learn AI, but their job is so busy. I said, spend 2 days a week, 4 to 5 hours a week, figure out what those days look like and carve the time aside. Do 5 hours a week, but you've got to start learning this now. And the problem is that we don't have the time. And the longer that you don't make the time, what's going to happen is it's going to be forced down you. You won't have a competitive edge if you get laid off, because there's going to be more and more roles that are going to require individuals to come forth and have tools in their toolkit that are AI related. No longer are the days that you show up and you just go to school and then that's it, and you get to work your job and grow in that job. You're going to have to continuously upskill. And with AI, if you don't get on board now, it becomes increasingly more challenging to learn the technology because it's moving so fast and becoming more complex as it grows. So if you learn it now, as the changes happen, because things are getting rolled out, I feel like every week there's some new tool. And as you start to learn, like there's things that come out that I'm just not even going to pay attention to because I have my suite of tools. But I had to learn that. It took me about 3 to 4 months to figure out what are my suite of tools, what am I going to learn? And that takes about 2 or 3 months, and then you have a jumping off point. So I think the longer you wait, the more challenging it's going to be to get into it. But I could be wrong. Mark, love your opinion on this, because as I'm saying that, I know that there's tools like Perplexity Computer is something that just came out. Now, it costs a lot of money. I saw a video on it. I've never tried it because it's not an area that I want to utilize because there's a cost associated with it. However, for the everyday user, it's built for somebody that maybe doesn't do coding and doesn't want to vibe code. That can be a plug and play. So maybe I'm entirely wrong. Maybe just sitting there, and then in the next 6 months, there's going to be another tool that you can plug and play, and you may not need to learn it. You just need to learn how to do prompt engineering. But I believe the more you practice this, because it's not only is it not going to go away, but we are going to see it in every single aspect of our life very, very soon, in every aspect. Nobody's immune to this. So regardless if there's a Perplexity Computer that comes out or something else that makes it easier for you, you're still going to have to learn this because it's going to be intricate in your life, and it's going to make you more competitive in whatever you're doing in your life. Even being a mom, being a more competitive edge with lifing, in my opinion, on that.
Yeah. So to your question about all of that, I think there was a lot to unpack there, but let's start with this. First, I feel like there is a compounding effect by learning today. And just going back to my previous point about like cloud, is it's not like you migrate to the cloud and set it and forget it. And that's a little oversimplification, but that operationalizing is you get better at it, but it is stuck in a point of time. A server stores data, a server stores or runs virtual machines. Now what we have are these potentially autonomous AI programs in the form of agents that can start doing real work and are self-improving. So and they're mainly self-improving with the amount of time that you put in to train them. So I mean, I can give you a great example. Is I spent like 2 weeks ago, I spent all week putting together what I thought was the foolproof agent harness. And I realized that I told it what to do, but it didn't have enough memory of the nuances of it. So I was, I generate newsletters 4 days a week. And I thought, well, yeah, I can just give it my thoughts. It's going to publish it and it's going to look perfect. And what it did was it looked amazing, but it didn't know that you shouldn't send email newsletters formatted with all this HTML. Well, I knew that intuitively, but I didn't pay close enough attention. And I went into the promotions folder for my Gmail customers. And so the takeaway is that you can put together these systems. And as for the more complex systems, it's going to be really, really a matter of you managing more resources. If they're human resources or it's one thing, but these agents are going to be something that, just like a new employee, you've got to bring them along for the ride. And there's a lot of nuance in what we do that is hard to pull from just Slack and our data lakes and our email. There's just, an amazing amount of information to make them really, really good that you have to provide.
That brings me to, I was thinking about the saying, you have to have a human in the loop. So Jack's like, I think people are saying, oh, AI is going to take our jobs. I mean, that could be so, but to your point, do you think learning more about AI, you are now the person in the loop, right? Because there has to be somebody managing the agents. They can't just go rogue. I mean, we've seen that happen already with rogue agents and the problems that has caused. How much of learning AI could keep you in the game, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't think we're at a point where AI can, check AI or having human, like the human level of intelligence with AI. We're just not there yet. I know there's speculation in the next 3 to 5 years we may see that, but I never really thought about it that way of like, you're still the human in the loop by utilizing these machines. But essentially that's the key, is like you're doing the prompts, to your point, Mark. And I thought your article was really great about that newsletter because it showed a different perspective. And you work in this space all the time. You're like, oh, I didn't really think about that. But that's that human in the loop of, sometimes we think that AI is smarter than it really is. And a friend told me, and it really clicked. He was like, think of your AI agent like the movie 50 First Dates. Every time you turn it on, I mean, it's like a new memory almost. And people can get frustrated with this AI because they'll give it a ton of things to do in one massive prompt, but not explicitly say, I need you to spin off sub agents to do X, Y, and Z, like being very, very specific on the ask that you want for the agents, doing backup memories, because it will act based on your prompt and the knowledge that it has. And if it hasn't backed up all that knowledge, it's essentially a new machine every day. So when he told me that, now I look at my agents in a completely different way. I build them very differently. And we really haven't talked about this, but a lot of people, why learning AI now is really important is because it's becoming more and more complex. And it's easier, I feel like, to learn the fundamentals now, even though it's really chaotic in this space of like, how do I build a markdown folder? And how do I create the skills that go within the markdown folder? And how do I build different agents for different things and create the sub agents to go within every one of those? So when you need an agent to do just social media, you have one built out. When you have an agent just to do email, you have that built out. And then that's where you put in your guardrails, your security parameters, and you have everything kind of separated. That's how I've been building my agentic environment. And so it starts to remove that human in the middle because it starts to know my tone of voice, how to respond to emails, what I like to see for prioritization. So I do think there is going to be a day, one of these days in the next, for me, probably depending on the rudimentary, like lower level tasks that I have, like emails, I think in the next 6 months to a year, maybe even sooner, it's going to get to a point I'm going to trust it to be able to sort my emails, prioritize, and respond without me having to approve the draft. But I think I'm further away from that. And then I don't think there's going to have to be my engagement as much because I'm going to have the agent built out where I won't need to be there. So I think you'll have the human in a loop initially, but that will eventually fade away for us to reach that intelligence level that we want with these machines.
I just pictured when you said I don't need to be there, I like pictured you like, hiking or out on a beach or something and just, letting all your minions, I'm going to call them minions instead of agents, work for you while you're out.
And Mark did a great class on this, actually. Mark Down skills class and everything. That was such a helpful visualization, Mark. And since that, I started building all my agents very differently after you showed like how that all worked.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I wish I would have taken my own advice. The problem is that you get a good result and you keep pushing. It was my problem is I kept pushing the limit. I'm like, oh yeah, I can get it to do this. Well, maybe I can get it to do that. And then eventually what happens is you get enough drift from your objective that you got to get back in line. It's funny, Kathy, that you said the word rogue agents. One of my experiments is I have a podcast called Rogue Agents. And what I do is I have it read my newsletters for the week and debate the news, like sort of like Crossfire. And I've been very transparent about it because I put it, the first one wasn't good. The second one wasn't terrible. The 12th one is okay, but I wanted people to see that like people out there building AI are still, learning as they go. I mean, unless you live through research, most of the general population has never seen any real meaningful application of AI until ChatGPT came on the scene in November of 22, I believe. So, I hate people are like, you're an expert. I'm like, no, I have experience more than relative people, but there's people who've been working in machine learning and AI for their whole career, and they are befuddled because some of these advances are a bit of a black box.
Yeah, I was just thinking about when you were talking about your podcast. So a lot of I do a lot of reading. That's why I was like, I had just read. But I was just reading another article. It was talking about how AI has will make us more passive, and some people think it'll make us more lazy. But to your point, what you're doing is pretty cool, Mark. Like when I hear that story, I think of like, wow, all the opportunities we have to be more creative, all the opportunities we have to build all these really cool things. Like I look at it as the opposite. Jax, what do you think? Like if you're building all these agents, is that going to make you step back a little bit and be less creative? Or do you think it puts a fire under you to do more?
Man, I got a controversial thought on this, and this is because of research and data points that I've seen. So I think it depends on the age of the individual using the agent. Reason being is that the older generation, the one that maybe you went through your undergrad, your master's program, you didn't have AI. And there's been a lot of research now with students and with kids that are having the capabilities of technology in the classroom. It's actually making them dumber. They're losing the critical thinking that the older generation had to work through to get through college, to write those papers. Like we didn't have a shortcut. I had a learning disability. And for me, and dyslexia. So I told somebody just a few weeks ago how many hours and days it used to take me to write a paper in college, like 3 to 4 days, 7 to 8 revisions. I think that I had Grammarly at the time, if anybody remembers Grammarly. So that was like, wow, technology back then, right? And now with AI, I can build out and still do my critical thinking, but I can copy that into AI and ask it to check my stuff Grammarly. Does it flow? Am I missing words? Am I flip words? What does this look like? So it helps me. But if you've never had to have those challenges along your way and you just have had AI you can just talk to it and do a whisper text and be like, I need you to construct an email that says X, Y, and Z. I want it to sound like this and be very sentimental and blah, 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 blah. Write it, have it in 500 words. It's going to generate it. So, and you're seeing that with the younger generation because they grew up with technology. And that's where the negative impact is being seen, is that the lack of critical thinking, understanding how to research, how to data fact check information. I think for the more mature, millennials, Gen Zs, Gen Xs. Yeah, Gen Xs. I think that critical thinking muscle has been developed. And for me, I actually force myself, because it's easier to just whisper text something into Claude. And sometimes I do, and it generates the report for me. But I just wrote something last night. It took me 2 hours to write. And I wanted to do that. I tried to do those things, but the easier solution is just to whisper text and have it develop something and then tweak that, which is time and place for that. Like business proposals, I do that for. I take my meeting notes, I put it in. I have an automated business proposal tool, creates it in 5 to 10 minutes. Someday it takes me 2 hours. So I'm very particular on the things that I do that with. And then I'm very particular on the things I don't. Newsletter. I think newsletters, I want those to be as genuine as possible. Writing a book, probably genuine as possible, but there's been a lot of fake books written as well. It's the easy way. So Kathy, I think that unfortunately, I think we are going to see a drop in critical thinking with the younger generation and just general humans that are lazy, that now see this as a way of like cutting corners and getting things done faster. But if you work in this space long enough, you can tell when something's been AI versus has a human touch to it. At least I can, but that could change too as we move and mature with AI, because it can learn how to communicate more like humans. So I think it's going to muddy the waters more and more. And there was research. There was a guy that actually testified to Congress. It was a 4-minute speech. I shared it on my LinkedIn. And he kicked it off by saying, I want to be clear that I have not received any funding by big tech. And then he went into the data points on how technology is actually negatively impacting the classrooms. And that the millennial generation is like the peak of intelligence. And since then, we're starting to decrease down. That obviously has COVID and other factors associated with it. But I think AI is going to have a play into that.
We've all mentioned articles, and Mark, I know that you follow the news. Now that I'm following you on LinkedIn, I see that you follow the news weekly. What do you think is one thing that the media is getting wrong about AI? What do you think that's being published out there that's not really, when it comes down to it, it's not fact?
I think that there's a lot of talk about job loss, and I think it's really about dislocation. I heard this used is, we in the early days of the US, the 80 to 90% of the country was working in agriculture, and now it's like 9%. So there's a lot more jobs that didn't exist. But I think that since we don't know what those jobs are, we talk about the job loss and not the job displacement, which is why I'm such a big fan of upskilling. I think what the knowledge that we have in our domains is useful, but we need to go. And I am so sorry about this. I did not know that my delivery was coming today that I needed to sign for. So I'm going to step away for just a minute. Like I scheduled I could see the FedEx on the Ring camera getting something out. And
that's
I'm
okay.
Like, oh,
that's what the beauty of live. Right, so Jax,
yes. Let's talk all the smack about Mark now as he leaves. All of it.
So I was, and Mark can pick up on this when we get back, but so I was listening to Jerry Ozier's show yesterday, or Friday, I believe it was, and Wade Wells was on there. And Wade said, I had a problem with my dishwasher. I couldn't figure it out. So, I asked whatever AI tool he uses. And then he took it a step further and he uploaded like the guides that come with the dishwasher or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, after it like read through the guides and his prompts or whatever, it gave him a solution. He did it. He fixed it. And I thought, oh, wow. Like, think of all the people. Like, we pay with our insurance. Anytime our dishwasher goes out, we pay $100 for somebody to come look at it and maybe push a couple buttons. And then I thought that. I was like, wow, is that a job now that kind of goes away? Just something I never even thought about. I was like, I never thought about like uploading the, instructions and the guides and like doing it myself. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's wild to think about the future when you think about stuff like that.
Yeah, things are I like how Mark put it with the displacement. There are a lot of job layoffs. I was part of it. So I see it. And I think that we are going to see new jobs arise. I know that sometimes I can take a pretty, maybe it's a doom and gloom view or a pessimistic or a glass half empty view with AI and what's happening and how it's changing, because I live and breathe in this space. I think the most critical thing is that it is going to be a displacement. I think there's going to be more jobs that are going to open up because of AI. But the key to this, and I've touched on it earlier, is upskilling and learning the skills that you need to get into those new jobs, new roles. So to your point with like uploading that document, the key to that is now people that may not think that they could have been a handy person, maybe they can do it with the help of AI. Maybe that's the new thing where they can get on a thumbtack, create a business. And now when they go to somebody's house, instead of knowing it off the top of their head or having to YouTube it, they can take that manual, upload it in real time, and be able to problem solve things a lot faster and easier, which will give people confidence to maybe start their own company now. So I think we need to, I look at AI as a really remarkable tool to be able to use and give people more opportunities for work and for opportunity that may not have had that option before.
That's thanks for covering while I was gone, but I think you just hit on something that I'm sort of passionate about. I put myself through college working in the trades, and I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy,
Oh,
who
I
has
love that show.
yeah, he has a foundation to generate trade jobs because we have a real shortage of trade manufacturing jobs in the US. And, when I worked in the trades, I worked in hauling concrete and electrical and plumbing and things like that. And I do think that like we don't have what used to be the apprenticeship program as widely deployed as it used to be. So why can't AI help people so that we can, close the gap between what we need today and what that talent pool exists? So, just HVAC in its own. Um, uh, I told my HVAC guy that he makes a better hourly rate than my lawyer, and he said, "Yeah." He's like, "I know because I make more than when I used to be a lawyer." I mean, you know,
Wow. Was he
it's
serious? That's
no,
crazy.
look, it's a joke. But no, I mean, and honestly, the ability to apply this to so many things where we can have a better, I think there's a lot of advantage to automation in manufacturing that can bring us up to speed. I really think that what is happening with the figure robots, which is an AI robot, with Optimus coming from Tesla, that there's a lot of jobs that don't get done well or don't get filled because they're dangerous. I only walked steel for a couple weeks, and I'm like, I can't do this. This is terrible. Like, and I wasn't up on a skyscraper. It was like a 2 or 3 story building. So, those kind of things, mining, all those kind of things where they're augmented. I think that's still, jobs that can't be done because we lack the talent. We're just going back to the dislocation. I think we need more welders, HVAC, electricians, plumbers, people in skilled trades that can help us, become a more self-sustaining country and not depending on worldwide manufacturing. It could be just the wake up we need. Now, I also know that we'll probably not be quite as rosy a picture as that, but I still think that it will be rosier than a lot of people paint.
Yeah. What other industries do you guys think that will benefit from AI the most? Manufacturing immediately comes to mind, but what other industries, maybe something we didn't think about, we haven't really thought about yet?
Well, we haven't touched on it, but maybe we've thought about it. And I was doing this at the first of the year, medical. I think that we are going to see a huge change. We're already seeing it. I was helping multiple medical clinics in Northern California at the first of the year, optimizing their medical practices. You would be surprised at how much of their processes are still manual labor. And as I was doing that, I was doing a ton of research in the space of tools that are currently being utilized for medical diagnosis to assist with medical diagnosis in dental practices and general medicine practices. And knowing that research and seeing how it's transforming in that space, I actually believe that here very soon, we're going to start seeing liability cases against doctors that are not using AI in their practices. You would think it'd be the other way around. Like, I think we're going to see both. They use it and they give the wrong diagnosis. They don't use it and they missed a diagnosis because they didn't use the AI tool to help them with research or whatever they needed to do. And because of that, maybe they missed something in the patient's medical record. So I think we're going to see it completely transform, not just the back end, but the front end of practices.
Yeah. And actually, that was the number one thought in my mind as well, Jax, was how it's going to affect, medical or healthcare and life sciences. So I am of the opinion that things like AlphaFold and other things are going to radically change the way that we do things. He's been pretty public on his Sid Seabrand, and I messed up Sid's last name. He was one of my former clients, but he is the founder of GitLab, and he developed rare cancer, and he talked about all the, technology he used. And if you hear Woodford the dog in the background, I apologize.
He's super excited about AI.
He's so excited about AI, he can't help it. But he actually is in remission, I believe, from what he's posted. And I feel like, from what I've been reading, that we're probably 5 years away from things like gene editing that it can be customized to the point where we can, extend our lives if we want to 100 years by doing that. One of the early sort of AI successes I saw was the University of Edinburgh in Scotland looked at like 20 senolytics drugs. So those are the drugs for aging. They help you rebuild your body, and what was on patent and what wasn't. And they found like 5 of them that were still had an extremely high efficacy because they could do all the research much more effectively than you could in a private, or their cost structure went down quite a bit. So I think it'll be a more competitive healthcare and life sciences landscape.
I was thinking, while all this stuff is like amazing and awesome, so for people to implement this and corporations to implement this, normally they have to wait on a budget, right? They have to wait on funding or whatever to get the tools in place, the right AI tools to do all of this thing. But I mean, attackers aren't waiting on budgets. Attackers aren't waiting on, you to have guardrails in place. I know, Jax, you mentioned guardrails a few times. What danger is it? Like, I just think it's all cool, but what danger can come about from just jumping in and diving into all of this too quickly?
Oh man, who wants that? Me, I guess. Or
yeah,
Mark?
I mean, it's more of like a cyber thing, I guess.
Yeah.
You mentioned guardrails a few times, but like, who's talking about guardrails?
For
like,
me, for what I've seen being in the security space and working for a large global organization, and talking with my peers that are also executives in other organizations and security departments, my fear is we're not embracing AI quick enough. And gone are the days where you're going to have a robust team of pen testers and the security team. I'm witnessing it firsthand, how they're slicing these teams in half and they're rehiring at a different skill set. And we are going to have to agentify our security spaces with red teaming AI, with vulnerability management. I think one of the primary areas that will be replaced by AI the most quickly will be GRC, and it will be a risk management program, which includes patch management, vulnerability management, identification, all of those, incident response. I think that's going to be the first area that needs to be identified, and we need to move fast. And it's going to be one of those things we say in the military, get a 75% solution and move fast and break things, because the risk of not moving fast when these day zero vulnerabilities come out, you watch and mark my word, and we can timestamp this. There will be a new day to security very, very soon. And these organizations that are not prepared and do not have the right talent and haven't pushed forward and agentified quickly are going to be screwed. They are going to not be able to respond quickly enough. And we are going to see organizations reporting 0-day vulnerabilities one after another. And it's going to be, we're going to, as we always see in security, we're going to be behind the time, and we're going to be starting to try to catch up when it's already too late.
Yeah, I feel like we're behind now.
Yes.
Right. In several cases, we're behind now. I just feel like AI is just making it, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom right before we say goodbye. But I do think it's just making it more challenging. I do like your point, though, about switching more to, I do a lot of career, you do too, like a lot of career talk and, mentorship and things like that. And like, maybe those are the discussions we start having. And that's the education we start giving, is like how to switch your role and how to focus more on like incident response than, I don't know. There's just so many opportunities now in the job field. What is your advice? Maybe Mark, you can take this from an education standpoint. What is your advice for people who are just now getting into AR cyber and they want to do that for a career? Like, what do they focus on? There's just so many different pathways now.
I wish I had a good answer. I feel like the big thing is that a lot of, we have this technology now that can do human-like tasks at machine speed. And I think that there's a small but highly capable number of people that are doing that. I think in February, there was a big news story about the 195 million identities from the Mexican government were extracted by one person using Claude code. And so, when the bad guys figure out how to use the tools at scale, the good guys have to figure out how to use the tools at scale as well. And, every time we've done some kind of additional technology advance, I mean, even with phones, the Steve Jobs and Wozniak are famous for meeting Captain Crunch and freaking phones to get free long distance. And then, later on you have Frank Bonsale, who, when we started writing checks before we had electronic adjudication, was floating checks and making money that way. It was Leonardo DiCaprio and Catch Me If You Can. And then we took our computers out of our data center that were, physically something we could protect, and put them out on the internet. And each time we've adapted, but just the speed at the change right now, I think the adaptation has to happen a lot more quickly than it ever had before.
Do you think, Jax, that sometimes some of these topics I think are a little overwhelming for some folks who aren't in it every day, so they're hearing how fast things are moving, and it gives them like kind of like an overwhelming feeling, especially if you're in the industry at all.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them to kind of, you're facing it head on. Some people have some challenges with just diving in like you did. What are some good steps if they're just getting into AI?
Well, they should hire me. That's the first thing. I'll help them out. I'll quiet the noise. That's the first thing. Reach out to me. On a serious note, though, reach out to somebody. Yeah, reach out to somebody that is doing this. You can try to learn it on your own. I was talking with my client today. Is everybody smart enough that's listening to this to be able to learn this on their own? Yes. But does everybody have the same aptitude or desire? Like AI, I feel like it's a very neurodivergent space. You may not enjoy it. So you hear the saying all the time, hire the things that you don't want to do or you're not good at, right? I have a CPA for that reason, a very expensive CPA, but I know how to read my P&L and I understand my financials. He takes care of all of that for me. So if the IRS comes after me, it's good to go. I would do the same thing with AI. I would find somebody like a Mark, like a Jax, like somebody else in your network. I would reach out to them and I would have them as your trusted confidant. Get a fractional AI officer in your environment, use them, consult with them, figure out what's best. There is so much data out there. I thought cybersecurity was overwhelming. I feel like AI is even more overwhelming. So leverage your network and leverage those people and just talk to them, reach out to them.
That's awesome. Mark, I know you do a lot of educational stuff. What kind of resources do you have for folks?
Well, the one thing is, since it changes so much, I publish a newsletter every week. I actually 4 days a week on AI skills. It's the AIE.net is the main thing. And then I do live webinars for free in our community, because I feel like my point I made earlier is you can't just go to a class, get a certification like you used to, and have that be relevant. So it's you got to be a continuous learner. Jax made a really good point earlier about being a critical thinker. I think if you can like step back and even more than talk about AI specifically, can master those two things and then apply AI to that, you're gonna be in a lot better shape.
Yeah. Jax, do you have any final thoughts before we say goodbye to folks?
This is awesome. Mark's awesome. Kathy, you're awesome. If you're in the Durham, Raleigh area, connect with us. Love to like meet you. And then don't be afraid to learn this. Like just start, pick it up anywhere, even if it's just using it on your phone to write emails or something. Like just learn it, baby steps into it.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your conference. When is that? When's the next one for your, is it All Things AI? I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher the name.
allthingsai.org. We are going to do one next spring. But we are also going to do a couple smaller events or sub events. So in October, we are going to do we're the AI track at allthingsopen.org. I believe that's October 22nd and 23rd. And then we're going to do some build an agent days. I think we're going to do one in Atlanta. We're going to do one in Charlotte probably, and a few other places. Raleigh, Durham, we had sold out on the education. So we're going to do an additional class just so people that want the upskilling can get that and then be part of the community that's active all year to keep them up to date.
That's awesome. Can you say your website again, Mark? Where can people find this info?
The AIE.net is where you can find all the things I do.
Okay, cool. And I do want to invite everybody who's listening right now to our next episode. It's going to be Tuesday, June 30th at 12 p.m. noon. We're going to talk about the defensive side of AI security with leaders who are working in internal security at corporations right now and who are working at MSP environments. I'm working on the panel right now. I've had two. I'll inform you of who the guests are when I get everybody on the panel, but it's looking really, really good. So I'm excited about the next one. And these episodes are brought to you by Agent Bounty. Agent Bounty is an AI native exposure management, continuously scanning, verifying, fixing what's broken. If you'd like to see their agents in action or get a free demo, you can visit their website. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jax. I appreciate you guys hopping on for the very first one. It's been an awesome discussion. I really, really appreciate your time. And to everybody listening, I appreciate your time too. I hope to see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Marcy, if you're listening, I don't have the power to end it.
I feel this is like where we do the Talladega Nights,
The
Ricky
outtake.